Jim. He's dead.
Hello and welcome to Improv Autopsy. I'm your host, Stephen Cadwell. You're listening to part one of my interview with experienced improviser and veteran SACtor, Megan Whyte Soule. Megan was still around SAC when I first darkened the doors of the theater, but she left before I was anything more than a student and volunteer. Like many other highly talented improvisers, she moved from Orlando out west. Her influence, however, still resonates through the theater, as many of the current ensemble members had her as an instructor or were inspired by watching her on stage. Without her participation and influence, SAC probably wouldn't be around today, and innumerable people would be leading less interesting lives for not having experienced her on stage or in a class. Megan has been a delight to talk to. I got to interview her twice as technical difficulties compromised the audio the first time around. Some of that I may release in some form or another. It was too good to get rid of entirely, despite the hiccups. I know you'll enjoy part one of Megan Whyte Soule's Improv Autopsy. Megan Whyte Soule, thank you for joining me on Improv Autopsy again.
Yeah.
We did this once before. It was so good. It's kind of heartbreaking that we lost it, but it means we get to do it again, so that's kind of fun.
Yay!
First question, or where I like to start, is do you remember your first encounter with improv, the first time you either saw it or experienced it?
Yes. I want to say it had to be some sort of PBS public broadcasting because it was just on our little TV, and it had a man and a woman in stark theater, like black and a spotlight. And they were doing a Shakespeare genre, somehow talking about toilet paper and in a very noble way, in a Shakespearean way, and that it was two of ply so they could see the flag from both sides or something. And my mind exploded and melted and did everything all at once. I thought it was amazing. And my mom was saying, yeah, they're just making that up. And I was amazed. Like, it was a jaw on the floor thing. I remember because I walked in and I stood and I stopped in my tracks and I watched the entire hour without ever sitting. I didn't sit down. I was so riveted. It was a great time.
Wow. And how old were you?
I was probably 13.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. Maybe 14.
And it was PBS, so that wasn't Whose Line.
Oh, no, I'm old. This was maybe 1980, 81, long before I ever heard Second City, any of that. It was totally new. But I was into Shakespeare because I was a big old theater nerd. So I came in like, oh, there's Shakespeare on PBS. And then come to find out you could meld that with something else. It was amazing. But this was long before improv was a thing that anybody knew about.
Yeah.
I mean, Viola Spolin was out there doing the thing, but nobody knew. No internet.
Yeah. Word couldn't spread as quickly.
Yeah.
But you don't remember what it was that you watched.
I never knew what it was I watched. It was some theatrical, live, British, two-person improv show, which to me is bizarre to be done almost 50 years ago. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, even Whose Line is almost that old. The British version is, it was 80-something when that started.
Yes. So that was the second time I saw it, and that was a lot more short for me.
Yeah.
This was almost like a long form two-person. But yeah, and then when I saw Whose Line, I'm like, that's that thing again. I thought it was amazing, but I never imagined a way to pursue it. And then I moved to Orlando and I kind of fell on top of SAC. And then I was like, what? It's right here. It's meant to be.
So you're saying you didn't seek it out. It was in your consciousness, but you didn't pursue it because how do you do that?
Right.
So how did you discover SAC?
Well, I graduated college in DC and I moved to Orlando because it was going to be the new Hollywood, right? And one of my first friends there, she was not in show business at all, but she was like, oh, I love going to this place. They do improv theater and you'll love it. And I was like, okay. And I went, and that's when I saw what would be known as House Full of Honkies. So it was the old gang, we would call them at SAC. And my mind was once again blown. And I remembered that moment, that PBS moment. So support PBS. So we just started becoming addicts. We went regularly to the point that I thought, they think we're weird, you know? They would look at us like they're here again, you know? And when I became a performer there, I remember groupies, you know, that would come all the time. So it was a real mind altering state to see that. And then eventually I took classes. Yeah.
I love that about improv, that you can move from being the super fan to being on stage and in the same place, and how that kind of can
So
be
crazy.
come full circle. It's an awesome and sometimes scary thing.
Yeah, exactly. Especially on a bad night.
Yeah.
You have a bad night. Oh,
Did you know that the moment or that day that you went that you wanted to take classes, or was it later down the road you're like, you know what, I'm going to take classes at that place that I went to?
I knew that I couldn't get enough of it. I remember that. I don't think I knew that they offered classes initially, and we went a lot. And then for sure, we started going to Bohemian Night. I don't know how long they did you ever see Bohemian Night?
No.
It was like Thursday late night. Not that late, but like at 10 o'clock on Thursdays, once a month. And it was basically like a open mic, hippie, like whatever you want. There was these kids that formed a band, kind of like Hanson. There was
Yeah.
that kind of a brothers in a band when they're all like 10 years old. And there would be a woman who was trying stand up for the first, it could be anything. It was outrageously fun. And Paula Pell, that was the first time because she was a SAC person. I
Hmm.
saw her develop the characters. She was a choir teacher and she would be teaching them like a Pearl Jam song and it became the Will Ferrell sketch. He's playing like a keyboard and she's singing and they sing sort of operatically even though it's something
Yes,
she
yes.
did it there and I want to say it was a Pearl Jam song and I thought it was the most ha, ha, like that kind of a thing
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
this is hysterical. But then of course she went on to like great success. And I was like, go Sack.
yeah.
Yeah, but the Bohemian Night meant I could get up because I was doing stand up a little bit. And so I think after like a year of going, because I was terrified, I finally went up and did some kind of stand up there. But I was terrified, like about to barf the whole time.
And when did you dip your toes into improv then, as far as playing?
I took classes there and then I wound up pretty quickly on like a sub list. They didn't have Next Gen or Lab Rats or the different names that we've called that league right underneath the main stage players. They didn't have that yet, but I would get a call, like, hey, can you be here in 20 minutes? And I'm a nervous person. So that to me was extremely difficult. Matt Young calls me up and I'm like, oh my God, Matt Young's calling me. I feel so cool. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. And he said, great. Can you come sub the show for me? And I'm like, no, I can't. And he said, but you just told me you had nothing. I was like, oh my God. And it was so terrifying for me. Brendan and I talk about that. Brendan Jennings and I both have just so much anxiety. So when we first got launched and you're performing with like heroes, that's a tough one.
Yeah. So who, you mentioned Matt, who were the other heroes at the time that were there?
Claire Sarah, Dave Russell, Joel McCrary. Morgan was there occasionally, Morgan Russell occasionally, Dan O'Sullivan occasionally. So it was the old school. And Wayne Brady was doing a little bit. He was on and off. And Jonathan Mangum, right? So, but Jonathan also was doing Comedy Warehouse at the time too. So he wasn't always there. But I mean, it was a murderer's row. And then I'm plopped up there, so in my head. My mind like can't settle down and then you see them look at you in this way where it feels like they're saying to you, what's happening to you right now, what is wrong with you, and they look so calm and then you just vomit out any sentence and they crinkle their brow at you like, well, I got to deal with this now that was my perspective. I don't think they were like that, but when you don't have anything and they're staring at you, was the worst. But I somehow pushed through all that anxiety. So thank God. It was great.
So how did you end up on that list? Was it just after you went through the still four levels of classes, I presume?
I did well in class and I'm a quick learner and I work really, I had the work ethic and all those things. I joined comedy sports with James Newport. He moved down from DC, opened up comedy sports. I auditioned, I got in. That's what happened. And I became a member of that troupe. And then when comedy sports closed, James went over to SAC and I kind of came over as like a tag along. But he went straight to main stage and I was sort of a sub until I stopped throwing up in the wings. And it was fine.
And that was that Amelia Street or Church Street?
We were on Church Street, yes,
Okay.
and, for a few years, and then they made the move.
Do you remember any of your instructors in the four levels that you had when you were there?
Yes, I had Claire and Dave, and that might have been the only 2 that I had, but
Okay.
definitely Claire changed my world as far as the way I thought about improv, and that made a huge difference for me.
Do you remember anything in particular, any particular moment where any light bulbs went off?
Yeah. She just had this one sentence. It's like the Buddha that you just barely say anything, and I get it. She said, "Yes, we're building a building, but you should only bring 1 brick." And I was like, "Oh my God." Because here I am trying to control the whole story in my head so I don't screw it up. Yeah, I'm trying to control the narrative, not steamroll the scene, but just don't screw it up. Don't screw it up.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
head, you know? And she was like, just bring a brick and hand them the brick. And then if they give you something, you pick that up and you put it on and it was like we're just building the pile of brick at a time. And that was able to settle my overactive, freaked out, anxious mind. So I will never ever forget that. Just bring a brick, Megan.
Unless you're getting the phone call and then it's doing something else with bricks.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
At what point in that were you finished with classes when you auditioned for Comedy Sports, or were you still in class?
I think I had finished and we were still, my friend and I were still groupies. And I was getting this opportunity to do it on the side with Comedy Sports. So I was still worshiping the actors, but I had my own thing going on. And then when it collapsed, it turned out to be the greatest because I got to kind of fold into SAC at the right time. The honkies were about to move to LA and there was a new generation, and I kind of had just moved up in time.
And Comedy Sports didn't have their own space, right, while they were in Orlando?
No, no. And I mean, it would move. I don't know how we ever got a single human being to come see us. We would be in some weird church basement and then this hotel ballroom, or we were all over the place. But it was great because it's like I got to grow up before social media. Thank God you can be an idiot and do dumb things and no one knows. And
Yeah.
that's how it was with Comedy Sports. I mean, we were terrible. They would give us the suggestion and we would huddle up and discuss what we were going to do for about a minute and then we would go do it. It was like so not right. But we got our feet wet, and then we started to relax. So I got to do that in anonymity and that was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, that used to be the way that a lot of improv was done. I forget what we were watching or who we were with, where maybe it was a documentary where it was even George Wendt, who recently passed, rest in peace.
Yes.
Like his crew, maybe at Second City or somewhere, where they would get the suggestion and then they'd have an intermission and they would talk about everything during intermission and then come back out and improvise it, which was completely foreign to me because I've never experienced that. But yeah, that was just the way that it was done.
Yeah, even I want to say 20 years ago or something, I went to see Second City and they did that. They had an improv up front, and I want to say there was a huge celebrity in it, and I can't even think who it was, but they did their little improv thing. And then, yes, they took suggestions and came back and did like a scripted thing. And I remember thinking, I like the first half better.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was very clever, of course, but there's
Yeah.
something about knowing that it's spontaneous that
Yeah.
really makes it exciting.
I agree, and can make up for, like, if it's not quite clever enough, being spontaneous sometimes makes the difference.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I remembered the celebrity. It was Mel Gibson. How
Oh,
odd, right? That's how long ago it was.
yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless of when, I would never have pegged him for someone who would be improvising.
No, he was in the audience, and then they, I guess, something like that, and they just kind of said, "Hey, you want to come up?" And he's like, "Sure." As I recall, he was quite short. Maybe I have that wrong, but it was bizarre.
I believe it. There are a lot of celebrities. Vin Diesel is notoriously short
Yes.
as well. Again, someone I would not peg for an improviser.
Mm-mm.
And I don't know, I have no stories about him improvising, so just that he's short.
I was a tour guide, a VIP tour guide when Orlando's Universal Studios opened. And I remember this crowd gathering. There were celebrities for the big
Yeah.
opening, and this crowd clamoring around someone, and I couldn't see who it was. And it was Tom Cruise. And I was like, what? There was just not a human in there. I thought it was Michael J. Fox is what I thought, and it turned out to be Tom Cruise. I don't think Tom would like to hear that, especially with the new Mission Impossible out. I can't say those words without saying Mission Improbable first and having to fix it. That is bizarre to me because I actually remember the TV show Mission Impossible, and I keep calling it Mission Improbable. Also, great friends.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you come in contact with Mission Improbable, I presume, in that?
They were very, very close with my generation of SAC. We were together all the time, and they loved coming down to Orlando, and I went to see them in Chicago for a little bit, hang out with them. And to this day, we still see each other, at parties and all of that. They're lovely. What a bunch of cute little boys in suits they were when they started out. So funny.
That's one thing about the current improv milieu in the country. I don't know. There aren't enough theaters that have crushes on each other that do that have relationships like that, and there needs to be more of that. There needs to be more sister theaters or theaters that are connected with each other in that way, that form that bond.
You are absolutely right. It's really sad because we learned from each other, we inspired each other, we celebrated together. You're right. The community part is, of course, I'm not actively improvising anymore, but it does not feel the same, and it makes me a little sad for them.
Yeah, it is different. I think it's transformed even from when I started, and I'm not in it as much as I was. But in that same vein, I want to ask you about, so between when we talked last time and it got all garbled and now, I spoke with Joe White.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, musical improviser and now a voice actor. So we chatted for a while, and I don't know if I was looking up Impromptones or Newtonics, which are the two musical groups he was in with Jeff Davis, but I found on, I think it was Fuzzy Gert's website, an old website of his, some photos from SAC Fool Fest 2002.
Oh, yeah.
And for sure there was you and James and Brendan in some of those photos.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, do you have any memory of that? Because we read about it a little bit, and it was like, what? SAC had this festival that was like a week of just insanity where there were parties every night and all of these different groups? Because that never happened when I was there.
Oh, it was the best. I'm now married to Matt Soule, who was also a SAC person. And I don't know if he was the total brainchild, but I know he got sponsors and really produced this thing. And we had artists coming from all over. And it just suddenly blew up at the last second. It was going to be just a small thing. We've never done it before. And then it was like, oh no. But beautiful. And so Red Bull was a sponsor, and I forget which brand of beer. So backstage, we had this whole, in the complex, they had all these extra rooms. So we were a theater with like all these extra rooms that we could hang out in off to the stage. And there were just those big barrels of Red Bull. So everyone was real jacked the whole night. And then right across, about a block away, this bar was like, we're going to give any Fool Fest people some insane price, dollar beers or something like that. Rolling Rocks are almost free. And we just would improvise day and night. Like there were shows all the time. And then we would go party all night and then show up the next day at a breakfast joint together all hung. It was a beautiful thing to be in your 20s and 30s and have that opportunity. I mean, that's how I got close with the Bass Prov guys and a lot of Chicagoans. It was a beautiful time. We used to have theater sports tournaments when SAC was still sort of adjacent to theater sports.
Yeah.
And we had one festival or competition, I guess you would call it, where we had people from, I want to say, New Zealand, for sure Japan. I mean, it was international, and I could not believe they were all coming to little old Orlando, and we had the best time. So I don't know that kind of vibe is still in the improv world.
Yeah. It's interesting. I spoke with, do you know David Charles much?
A little bit. Yeah.
I spoke with him, and he was talking about how he got started because that year of when he was in high school in New Zealand, there was some arts grant of some kind, and theater sports people came to New Zealand and taught theater sports, and he said like all the high schools had leagues and they all played each other.
Wow.
Yeah, and that to me, I mean, high school me would have been so into that had that been a thing anywhere near me. And I think there was a drama club possibly in the high school that I would have gone to had we not moved. And then we moved, and I moved to a place where we did like one musical a year.
Yeah.
And that was the extent of anything theatrical.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot for me either. It was my high school's the early 80s. And so, yeah, we had a drama club. And what did that mean? We went to a one-act play competition. That was, and we had one musical and one drama.
Yeah.
Those are the, yeah. Oh, I can't imagine having an improv league in high school. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Ah, man, it would have been the best.
Yeah, and that's how he got into it and discovered his love of improv, and that he could, especially improv singing, and that launched him into the improv world. And I don't know if there's a real a cycle. Whatever it was, if there was one, I'm sure pandemic interrupted in.
Oh,
So a lot of places are rebuilding from that, and the madness now going on with the NEA and all that kind of thing. I mean, who knows what is going to happen and who we're going to lose theater-wise because of the loss of arts funding. But the idea that theater sports was so pervasive in a good way at one point is amazing. And I mean, SAC still, I think, owes so much to theater sports in terms of organization and the Duel of Fools and that kind of thing. And even though I never met John Stone, I'm indebted to John Stone and all of that. Yeah, a tournament like that would be amazing. We did do one, like 2014, maybe 2013. I forget when exactly they may have called it a Fool Fest, but it was more of just a smaller theater sports type of tournament where because I know they brought some people in from Ryan's Theater up in Washington, and then SAC, and then there were a couple others, and I forget where anybody else was from, but it was a much smaller affair than definitely the one that I found the pictures of, or the one you're describing where they brought people in from Germany and Japan and other places. I love that it's an art form that is all over like that, and people are doing it all over.
yes. The ones who came from Japan, they didn't know much English, and they were the sweetest, and they were hilarious, but we were connecting it with almost no language in common. And that's why our gibberish scenes were so much fun with them, because we already kind of had learned how to understand them when we would go out with them and hang out all night and not understand half of what they were saying. But yeah, I so enjoyed that. That was really magical. Yeah. And we did it a couple of years. And then I think maybe it stopped because that's when everybody moved to LA.
Okay.
I know Matt did it at least twice, 2 years. So I think there was a second one, but I don't think anyone took up the mantle after he left. So
yeah, that's too bad. Although it's quite the mantle to take on, because that's not an easy thing, organizing all of that.
dude, I still, because I was such a diva, I'm not sure who pulled all the strings, but I remember Matt hustled and got all the sponsors, and it was like fully catered. There's Subway subs everywhere and chips over here, and what I mean, it was insane. So I thought, I'm going to keep my eye on that guy.
And you did.
I did. I chose well. Free food?
It's a Fool Fest every night at the Soule household.
Yeah. He does do the cooking, so I still get the free food.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so comedy sports. When you auditioned for comedy sports, do you have any idea how that got to Orlando? Was that James Newport? Was he the one that was spearheading that?
Yes. So he was on a team. I mean, I call it a team. You know what I mean? They had a group in DC that has a lot of pretty well known improvisers. They sort of branched off. Brian Howard and James Newport left DC to come to Orlando and start their own franchise of comedy sports. And I was in that first group. And then eventually Brian Howard phased out, and it was just James. And so he really taught me probably the most about improv. I had taken classes, but he was like the practical boots on the ground teacher that I had.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I will forever be indebted to him for that. But running a business is not always a compatible skill. And to start from the ground up with no space, no advertising budget, no money. So it did not last that long. But man, we had a great time.
So it was more or less the same thing that drew you down there. It was just the promise of Orlando in the 80s in terms of what Orlando could be.
That's right.
seemed like a good place to do it.
Yeah, it was going to be the new New York, Chicago, LA hub, which, didn't happen, but lots of great theme park material there. And there was good theater there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's still, and I don't know if it's just left over from that or residual, but there's still so many talented people down there doing so many amazing things in theme parks and other places. It is a talent center for sure.
So much talent, and the kind of talent where you think, wow, people don't know. They have
Yeah.
no idea. And it's a little heartbreaking because you're seeing these talents that should be known the world over. And then you'll see a celebrity that you're like, now why are you successful and famous and not even nice?
Yeah.
And my amazing, brilliant, talented, friendly, and there was that sense of injustice
Yeah.
sometimes. But you're right. There were mega talents when I was there, and I'm sure there still are. I mean, I think Chris Dinger is a mega talent. There's so many drawn there. I think improv draws in the most fascinating people.
Yeah.
I'm going to count myself as one because, I just realized it sounded that way. But really fascinating people, and all of us kind of deep nerds in some way
Yeah.
that got to rise to the top. I loved Broadway musicals when I was a kid. Well, then now I got to be able to do Broadway musicals fully improvised, and people would be like, "How do you do that?" And I'd be like, "Years of nerd training."
Yeah.
I didn't know it would serve me, but it did.
Yeah. See, some people may have thought you were going to say improv training, but it was
No,
years of
no.
nerd training.
I mean, listening to the LP of Guys and Dolls 107 times, it's just weird things like that.
Yeah.
And watching old movies. So then when you get your film noir or you're going to be Judy Garland, like you know exactly how to do it
Yeah.
because you literally studied it. And then the audience is like, how did you just know how to do Judy Garland like that? And you're like, well, I logged a lot of hours.
Yeah.
So it was interesting because you could pull from your own tool belt and it looks to the audience like your tool belt is infinite.
Yeah.
So it was so magical. You're making me want to go run down to SAC right now, catch a flight.
Well, the thing I love about what you're saying too is that those years of nerd study, that was out of passion for the subject, out of the joy you were getting from it.
Mm.
And then as an improviser, you just get to spread that joy for that thing that you're passionate about
Oh,
to other people. And it looks like magic. It looks like you're a scholar of some kind, but really it's just the thing I'm into.
that's right. Yes, what you said is precisely it. It's magical for me and for the audience. And that other step of it's magical for all of us, that sort of marionette feeling where we're all kind of tied by the same strings, having a great party. I just haven't been able to get that anywhere else in my life.
Yeah.
It's really, that's why the funding for the arts, I'm like, yeah, man, you guys didn't get out much then, or you would fund the arts.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
the more that we see AI and technology being capable of and what it's doing, the one thing that it will never be able to replace is live theater.
I know.
Live theater cannot be replaced by technology because there's nothing that can compare to being in a room with other humans experiencing a thing together, or there's nothing that will change watching a live actor do something on a stage. There's an energy in the room that you can't get from a screen.
Absolutely, a collective energy. And that actor's performance is just that way because you are there watching. That experience is what I hope people will remember that we enjoy and we love. Because it's easy now to sit and stream from my couch. It's just easy to hit a button and forget what it's like, that energy of a live performance, a
Yeah.
live band, any of it.
Even televised improv, like I'm a Who's Line fan. I saw Who's Line when I was younger, and rewatching the old Who's Lines,
Oh,
we don't have Dropout, but I'm happy that Dropout exists and there's televised improv in other forms. But there's nothing like being in the room. It's
no.
a completely different experience, and you cannot television, any screen version pales in comparison to being in the room with the improvisers.
Absolutely. It's like you're outside the building looking in the window. Like that's how it feels when I watch it on TV. I can see that the people there are really having a great time. And I think it's funny, but I'm not in the room. Like I
Yeah.
can't quite get in the club. And that's why live is that's when they were doing Zoom improv during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I never did it. I was like, no, I can't do that because there's a weird delay and mics on. And I admire anyone who did it. I know Brendan did it. I know Lauren Pritchard did it, but I just couldn't bring myself. Did you do any of that? Zoom improv?
No, we did a discussion or something once with some people, but I never attempted any improv. And I think the time delay is the thing that really would have stuck with me too. Is like, how can you?
Well, right. And who's in this scene? Are you about to make an entrance? What are you like? You just can't get any reference of anything. I would think we'd all be talking all over each other or no one's talking.
I mean, unless everyone is okay. This is an improvised business meeting via Zoom. Let's go.
Yes, that would work.
Perfect. Okay, so comedy sports then is no longer worth the time and energy to try to keep that afloat, or there's just a better opportunity because House Full of Honkies is headed to LA and you and James end up at SAC.
Well, I think comedy sports just was getting to be a financial burden because you have to pay the licensing
Right.
fees
Yeah.
and that was his like he was trying to make it his gig and everything just was becoming too much and we couldn't get audiences because we always had to move. And so he got invited into SAC. I think he and Claire, or he had been doing some work with them, maybe in the theme parks or something. And they pulled him in. Now, this was a while before they all went to LA. So
Okay.
we were there a couple years, yeah, before they left.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did they make that decision? Was it, hey, in a year we're going to head to LA? Or was it, hey, 6 months from now we're going to head to LA? Do you remember any of that? Or it just happened?
You know what? I think it was a fairly quick process. I was not in the main group. So, all those things get talked about in the green room. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Those are the
yeah.
kinds of things. And all I remember is that I was playing a lot, but I knew they wanted to move to LA and they were talking about moving to LA for quite a while. But then I think once the decision was made, it was pretty quick. I remember Terry Olson calling us in and saying, okay, you're the new league. This is it. They're going, they'll be gone. It's you. And I don't remember how much warning we got for that.
Wow.
I don't think it was a lot. Yeah, it was pretty scary. I think he was even more scared, which was a little upsetting to me at first. Like, what, you think we can't carry this? You know? And then I realized, wait, maybe we can't carry this. So it was a little bit of it was very exciting. We knew we could do it. We knew we had something between us, that group, but also there was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of audiences like, where's so and so?
Right.
Where's
Yeah.
so? And you're like, oh God. But eventually they start asking, where's Megan or where's Ryan? Or so you just have to suffer through that little first bit.
Yeah. You were the crew that were there when I first moved down. I moved to the area in 2001, but I don't think I went to a show that first year I was in Orlando. I think it wasn't maybe until 2002 that I actually saw a show. I have an image of James Newport on the stage there at Amelia Street doing a setup, or I don't know if he was hosting or if he was just setting up a game. And I think I have a memory of you, but I don't know if it's just from pictures or if I actually do. I have a vague memory of Jay Hopkins and Brendan in a scene that is something to do with an antenna that I'm sure they both remember vividly. So I know that, you were all the group that were there when I first started going to shows, and then I started. Charles Fryman was my level 1 teacher. I don't know when I volunteered to get sack bucks to pay for classes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how long that took before I was able to actually start taking classes, but I know by the time I was through classes, you all had moved on
Oh,
to wherever you were going,
bummer.
and then Dave was back.
That's right. Dave came and then we left not too long after he came back, maybe a year, something like that. Hmm. Oh, I wish we could have played together. That would have been
Yeah,
great.
well, you say that, but you don't know how I played then, so who knows? It may not have been.
I don't know. I hear good things. I hear good things.
So, what drew you away? Was it just you moved to LA, or where did you move from Orlando?
I did move to LA. The party was kind of over. Like a lot of people were slowly moving out to LA. I actually was in a relationship with Mr. James Newport for many, many, many years. And that was over and everything just kind of was not as much fun. It was a cycle. Some kind of cycle had ended, and it
Yeah.
was like, well, now what? I'd done Comedy Warehouse. I mean, yay. It was a lot of fun, but not like SAC. And now my friends were leaving SAC little by little. And I just felt like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. And my friend Jen Bascom, who's also an improviser, she was like, I'm going to LA. You want to come? And I just said, okay. I might have even been having that conversation with her. Like, it just seems like it's over and I don't like it. And she was like, well, let's go. I'm going to LA. Go with me. And I did. And by then, Where's Moo, which was a band that had Jocelyn, who was our everything at SAC. She ran the house, she did everything. She left. My husband was the drummer. Michael Mangum, Jonathan Mangum's little brother, was the vocalist and guitarist, and they all went out. And I just felt like, and Matt was saying, "Come out here," and he was the one who got free food. So I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna do that," and I'm glad I did because all these SAC people are out here, and we are still so close. I see Jocelyn maybe once every 8 days. I mean, it's still a very close group of friends, and I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
I feel really lucky. I think improv binds you together in some way. I don't quite understand it, but
Yeah.
there's like 30 of us that regularly see each other. It's very strange.
One of the things I love, because I think you're absolutely right. And SAC is nuclear family or your family.
Yeah.
And then other improvisers are just extended family. Like
Yeah,
the improvisers from Japan. It's like, yeah, you're family. We can play with you. You're just
absolutely.
the cousins we don't see very often.
Yeah. I became close with a lot of guys from Edmonton Theater Sports. Went to Canada to hang out with them for a while. And it's just, they feel like cousins.
Yeah.
The cousins that you like because you actually chose them.
You're right.
No jerk cousins. So yeah, I'm feel so lucky because I think kids now have a hard time really getting those kinds of friendships.
Yeah.
They have a hard time even socializing. It's very My son's 16 and I've been teaching 13-year-olds and I'm kind of like, wow, it's different for you, huh?
Yeah. I'm not one that would ever say that when I was your age, we had it so much harder. I'm like, oh, I'm so thankful that I did not have to grow up today.
Right? Agreed. No, thank you. But it does make me sad for them. Their version of the arts is going to be that AI era of the arts. I mean, I gotta say, their video game life, yeah, they do have it easy. I mean, I had pixels.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, it's give and take, give and take.
yeah. Ah,
If we were going to coin a phrase that is similar to blood is thicker than water, but something to do
mm.
with improv, would it be laughter or would it be play? Play is thicker than water, blood,
Oh,
laughter.
oh,
It
this is
just
like a inside the actor's studio question. Okay, well, here's where I get all zen on myself because to me, I was being taught how to be present in the moment and leave all the anxiety and the depression and all those things that were crushing my soul. I could leave them. It was my job. I had to. And so there's something about being present. And that was to be a good improviser, you absolutely must be. And I think that was the way that I learned like, oh, I could really be a lot happier if I also did that off stage.
yeah.
You know, that's maybe why the friendships are so intense because you are up on that stage counting on the other one to be present because that's all you've got and being playful with one another and accepting one another. It's so amazing and you don't really get any training on how to do that in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should start opening schools to like just help people become better at being present. I think that's worse. Like we go to a restaurant, everybody's on their phones. Everybody's talked about how I go to restaurants and everyone's on their phone and I think it's terrible. And I have said that and then find myself in the restaurant on my phone
Yeah.
because my child is on his phone, my husband on his phone. And I'm like, well, like, okay, I don't know. I want it back. I want improv back in my house.
When did that transition happen? I'm assuming that part of the move for them from Orlando is that the promise that was there when everything in the 80s was turning out to be something different than a lot of people had hoped. And so that to follow some of those dreams, that meant that they were going to have to go somewhere else because going to Orlando wasn't going to be the place where that stuff could be found the way that it was initially thought. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think there were amazing things. I had amazing theater experiences, the improv experience. I did some stand up there. There was a lot, and I was very content and happy to do that. But after a while, it felt flat. Like, what, I feel like I've done that. I've
Yeah.
done that. There was no place to go. There was like a ceiling. And a few people went to LA, and I'm like, oh no, I got everything I need here. And then as time went by, I was less satisfied. And so I went out thinking, well, I have all this acting experience from Orlando. They'll take me under the wing immediately. And they love improvisers, and I've got so much improv. I'm a shoe-in to get some work. And then I got out here, and improv was very different here. It was no sack. And that kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit. It was kind of a bummer. It's very business.
Okay.
It's less about let's play and have fun and bring the audience with us. It was more like I got to nail it. There might be an agent in the audience,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And to me, I couldn't get that real magic as easily because I could see one eye was on the audience all the time,
Yeah.
especially when we were doing long form and they try to jump out and do something quote unquote memorable. And it made it less fun.
Was that a prescription like from those coaches or whatever? Is like you need to do something memorable? Is that something that was said?
No, because a lot of the teachers were Chicago, like a lot of IO, Improv Olympic, a lot of Second City. It was mostly Improv Olympic people that I remember coaching that I took because I had to come and take classes and start over,
Yeah.
like level one, because in LA, it's sort of like, well, yeah, but what have you done here? It's that vibe. So I was like, great, I love taking classes, I'll do it. And it's still all the same. They have that same joy of it. But then the reality of the performance for newer,
Yeah.
right? I would be on the new Herald team or something that, and the hungry, excited improvisers, they in practice were not all of them, but many kind of trying to get attention, trying to get buzz. This was sort of pre social media
Yeah.
mostly, but it was that same vibe, like taking a selfie.
Yeah.
It just had that kind of a feeling to it, and I found that a dramatic cutoff from what I liked. Like, "What are you doing? I'm right here." Like, "We're come on." If it's not going the way they want, they'll more likely to steamroll it or yeah, I'm sure you've improvised with someone like that where it's not going great right now, but then they'll just kick the door in and push it somewhere,
Yeah.
whether it's good or bad, it's going to go somewhere. And then everyone has to hold on for their lives, like the Titanic. Like, well, now I knew we had a leak, but now we're going down and I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah.
So,
My experience in Chicago, because it was another one of those kind of culture shock things compared to Orlando and what had been going on down there. And I feel like it was some of the same pressures, which was,
oh,
yeah, there might be an agent. I'm doing this so that I can be on SNL.
yes.
I'm doing this so that I can be hired by Second City so that I can someday be on SNL. And you may as well be doing improv with someone who is staring at their phone because they're just doing it for that. They're not present. They're not in the moment. They're not just there playing with you because they have an agenda. Even if it's not a scenic agenda, their agenda is this other thing, this other goal that they're trying to get to. And it steals some of the joy from it.
That is exactly what I mean. That whole idea of like, I'm going to be on SNL, this singular focus, which I admire. You set a goal and you know how to go after your
Yeah.
goals. I'm not great at that, honestly, but I'm here right now with you. Like, I want to be with you right now. And that is precisely the vibe I'm talking about. That's interesting that you felt that in Chicago too. I think we were just lucky to be in kind of with sort of a small town,
Yeah.
Orlando, with some big resources. And I think that was great. Maybe I wouldn't have stuck with it if I had started in a really competitive place like Chicago or something.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like I learned a lot being there, and some of it was trial by fire, but I feel like I'm much more able to improvise with a wider range of improvisers than I would have been when I first left Orlando.
Yeah.
Because I had to sort of take on some of the Mick Napier philosophy of taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
and because if they're not doing it, somebody has to, and so you
Yeah.
just kind of have to pick that up. And I don't fault anybody. There's some great improvisers up there, but for me, I love improv. Improv is what I want to do. So I don't want to do improv to do something else.
Yeah.
I want to do improv. That's the thing that I love.
Yeah.
And I get that improv doesn't pay a lot of bills. So,
No. And I think you can have that agenda and still be a great partner on
yeah,
stage. If you really have the joy, the playfulness is what you're really liking.
yeah,
Because I think about it now, I have worked with some really driven, singular minded people, but when they're performing with you, they are performing with you in that moment.
yeah.
That must be difficult to do, maybe? I don't know. But that was a turnoff for me. And then I just couldn't quite get quite the same magic back. And that's been sad. So I hope improvisers are finding a place where they get that same totally not for social media or content production,
Right.
but just having fun.
Yeah.
Do you remember just going to someone's living room and practicing for your Herald team? And did you ever do that kind of thing?
Yes.
And I mean, it's so, I don't know, it seems so teenage to do, but it was a blast.
Yeah.
So,
It is. I love some of the underground aspect of it too. Is like, yeah, we wouldn't be doing this. No one would be doing this in this place if they didn't love it.
right?
No one would subject themselves to this if they weren't getting something out of it.
I remember doing comedy sports. One thing I'll say about comedy sports that I loved is it was a lot more about going to other cities, going to other comedy sports isn't playing. But I remember the Milwaukee team, or was it Madison? They had a regular space. It was the upstairs of a McDonald's, like the second floor of a McDonald's. And I
Yeah.
thought, this is so weird, but they were just the most fun. So I don't know. There's something about being the poor kid, you know what I mean? Where you're like, yeah, let's go do a show at the second floor of the McDonald's
Yeah.
and have the time of our lives. No fancy theater or anything like that.
And I feel like there are some spaces like that, and there are some currently in Chicago as well. There's a Logan Square Theater, which is kind of up and coming, that isn't burdened by the weight of its own history. So
Ah,
they're just able to do whatever. And they have some other theaters that are just starting. Revival has a history, but this incarnation is probably about 10 years old, so they're not upstarts necessarily.
right.
But there are some places that I think, and there are places that come and go too. There was one, oh, I'm going to forget exactly what it was called. It would move around a little bit, and at one point it was in somebody's attic.
Wow.
Like it was in the attic of this 3 flat, and you just go and you do a show there. So those places were,
I love that.
yeah, sweaty, hot, insane shows.
But you were in something like special. You always felt you were in something special.
Yeah.
Like, because it's just us and we're in this attic. I don't know, it added adventure to it.
Yeah.
So I love that.
So at some point, improv was no longer a priority, either because for financial reasons or whatever. What did you transition to? Are you teaching?
I am teaching, although I've got to stop. No offense, but education is tough.
Yeah.
Thank God I'm an improviser, or I don't know what I would have done. So this year I'm teaching seventh grade. So it's like improvising for doctors and lawyers. Doctors and lawyers are horrible, horrible people to improvise for. And you have now 20 something of them staring at you
Yeah.
because a seventh grader has to be cool. Therefore, they cannot like anything. So, no matter how much fun I try to make it, they hate it. So, after a while, you're like, I'm going to go join a new troop. You know what I mean? Like, this is not fun for me. But I've been getting back into doing more creative things on my own and building something and trying to get that going in my life because I miss it so much. It's so magical. And I also, we're going to try to see if we can be real cringe parents, as they say, and try to get our son to, he's very funny. So I'm like, dude, you would kill at improv. Let us teach you improv. But now I'm seeing us try to do scenes together in my mind and going, I don't know if this is a good idea, but we'll try it.
What about stand up? When did you stop doing stand up?
Well, once I really got improv in my bloodstream, I didn't want to do stand up anymore. I mean, I loved stand up, but it's very lonely. It's you trying to win over the crowd.
Yeah.
I mean, usually the crowd's rooting for you. They want you to be good, but it's more of that me and you. Will you like me? Will I like you? And in improv, it's more just, hey, everybody, you know, let's have fun. And there wasn't this pressure, like I said, with all the anxiety that I have. There's so much pressure. I'm rehearsing, 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 which
Yeah.
is why I think when I first started doing improv, I really struggled because I couldn't control it. And I couldn't rehearse it for the 45 minutes before the show or any of those things. Stand up just doesn't bring me the same amount of joy.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, but it doesn't come close at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of stand-ups have trouble improvising, and now I can totally understand that now. Because if you really like being in control of the comedy, you should do stand-up.
Yeah.
If you like being a little bit like, "Oh, I don't know what's going to happen," then you should do improv. You can't force it. I was lucky. I feel like I was able to do either one, but I fell in love with improv.
Yeah.
So stand up and I are just friends.
What would you say is better, bad improv or bad stand up?
Oh gosh. Oh, that's so hard. Both of them just gave me a visceral reaction I cannot even explain. Okay, so I'll describe the reaction. So when I think about bad stand-up, it has a little more anger in my body that I can't get out. I'm too empathic to just get up and walk out on a performance. I just won't do it. And so stand-up will just make me mad, but I don't know why. Because I want so much for them to just do well, and they're not doing it. Bad improv is, I feel like when you watch a dog who's just given birth and all the puppies are suckling at once, and that dog is just like, "Oh God." That's kind of how that's kind of how bad improv feels. It's just like I feel exhausted. And just especially when they start to know how bad it is. I don't know. Will you tell me this? Which do you think is worse? Bad improv where they know it's bad, or bad improv where they think it's great? What do you
Oh,
think?
that is an interesting spin. I would say I'm probably going to enjoy more the one where they think it's great because I will be able to laugh at them even if it's for the wrong reasons. Where if they know that it's going bad, then I'm going to feel bad for them and my face is going to get hot and I'm going to stare at my shoes and try not to.
We are the same person. I I start laughing extra hard. Like, come on, kids.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. You're right, though. You can laugh when it's really, really bad. That makes me sound like not a nice person, but man, bad improv can be very funny.
Yeah.
You're right.
One of the questions I had initially to ask people, but I could never frame it the right way, is the idea that the more educated you become about something, your enjoyment of it changes. So, me walking through MoMA, I will get a certain level of enjoyment or fulfillment from that, but someone who knows art and understands art, they're going to get a lot more from it. And I might look at something that is not a good piece of art
Yeah.
for whatever reason, and I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. And they'll look at it, and maybe it will make them angry, or maybe it will elicit some other sort of reaction
Mm,
because they have so much more knowledge. And so
mm.
I tried to frame this question about, now that you have aggregated this much improv knowledge, has it ruined your enjoyment of improv? Do you still like to watch improv? But I couldn't frame it in the right way.
No, I understand that actually. And a little bit. That magic I felt when I saw the PBS show and these people doing something I'd never dreamed of, that's a little bit dampened, right? But I still love it. And if it's really good, I'm still really in
Yeah.
because there's something about improv that it's always about surprise. The performers surprise themselves, they surprise each other, the audience can surprise them. And so I think that keeps it interesting and alive, even if I know how the sausage is made. But every now and then you'll see a show where it's nothing but the sausage being made.
Yeah.
And it's like, Brendan and I were just talking about that yesterday. I don't know how it came up, but it was like when the young and hungry improvisers come up, you love it. They're great, but they've been watching you, and so they want to do the things that you do. And some of them, that's all they'll really learn,
Yeah.
right? And other ones learn how to be their own version of an improviser. So those would be the ones who, here's the Western genre, they somersault across as a tumbleweed. Here's the film noir genre, they're wiping down the bar. It's just like there were these tropes,
Yeah.
but if they could still do it with a sense of humor, knowing that I'm doing the thing that you guys do, I would be on the floor laughing. But sometimes it would just be painful because you want to say, no, 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 you can find your own thing. You've got your own thing in there,
Yeah.
try it. But I remember being locked in like that. So I think I just have a lot of empathy for that panic feeling that is usually behind those kinds of entrances.
Yeah, I feel like there was a time in my life where wherever I was, where some of that stuff would get to me more. And like I can look at it and acknowledge it without ruining the enjoyment of what I'm watching.
Mm,
Or if I'm in that scene, then there's an extra little twinkle in my eye as I go out and try to subvert whatever is going on or play with it in some way.
yeah.
But there was a time in my life where I would have just sighed heavily and a tear would have run down my cheek.
Yes, you brought up the subversion. That is part of the great fun, is just calling each other out on stage still in the context of the scene and letting that carry the scene, like veering off in another direction, but this playfulness of like, I'm calling you out on that one, and the
Yeah.
audience is also in on it, and it's just that is one of the magical things about improv, I think, is that more than a stand-up or a comedy play, is that everyone feels the turn and gets to take the ride. You said the word subvert and you brought back so many joyful memories. What does that say about me?
Well,
Oh,
so long as we're kind of, maybe we've moved further along than this. I think online or somewhere you still have a mention of Chicago Improv Festival.
yeah.
What was that like when you did that? Who did you go with, and how was that experience? Were you coming from LA to do that?
No, this was all when I was in Orlando.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, we went, I can't remember the year, because we went to one in Kansas City, which was amazing. And then, yeah, the one in Chicago, we were doing like a new format that we had come up with. And like all new formats, they're kind of like old formats with just one little difference. But it was highly, highly musical. And I loved doing music improv as one of my strengths. And we were a good group to do it. And it was only three of us, but our musician couldn't come. So we had a musician who didn't know us, who didn't know what we were
Oh.
doing, who didn't, and so we sucked pretty badly. And then there was a write-up about how like I was trying so hard to make something happen of it. And I'm like, oh, that hurts because at home we kill with it. But that shows how important the musician is. When you're a team and your musician knows your players, oh my God, it makes a world of difference because we were flailing. It was sweaty up there. And of course, we felt like we're on the big stage. We're in Chicago and we're
Yeah.
screwing it up. Yeah, that was tough, but we did it. When you survive those things, it makes you stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where did the write up come from? Was it one of the papers or?
Um, there might have been like a festival, sort of a zine or something.
Oh
I mean,
no.
there was something in the improv world, I believe. I don't think it was in the newspaper. I mean, they've got a lot more to worry about in Chicago, but I think it was some kind of within the community because I remember just wanting to like flip a lapel up on an overcoat and like sneak out of there. It was awful.
Oh. Do you remember any other than obviously the heat and the sweat and the musician that wasn't your own? Do you remember any specifics about the performance?
Honestly, my only memory is me feeling the light on my face and thinking, "I've gotta go. I've gotta get out of here." And once your head is there, you gotta really because it was so quiet. It was so, so quiet out there. But it's also you have a whole audience full of improvisers mostly. It's a different and nobody knew us. Who is this Florida, whatever. They
Yeah.
weren't jerks. Nobody was a jerk, but it just we didn't hit. It was
Yeah.
really sad. But no, I don't really remember anything because I was in such a brain panic.
Yeah.
think it was Ryan Smith and Jay Hopkins and me, and I. It was the three of us. And then their musician, who not only did we not know him, but I think he got thrown in at the last second. So
Oh,
he also was like, "Oh, what? Oh, okay." And and we're like, "That's okay. We're so good at this. We're gonna nail it." And we didn't realize, like, wow, our guy really knows what we mean when we kind of hint at a Western genre or a K-pop. Well, there was no K-pop,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. Yeah.
They can anticipate your move almost before you make it versus someone who has no clue.
I gotta tell you, if you have a musical improviser musician, bring them some candy or alcohol or whatever it is that they like, because that is an undersung hero right there.
Yeah.
Same with the technicians. I gotta
Yes.
shout out.
I had a similar experience at a festival in New York. A couple of friends of mine and I did. I don't know what it was called, but it wasn't the Del Close Festival, but it was some other improv festival at one of the theaters in New York. And I don't remember the specifics, but I remember it being a terrible show. It's
Yeah.
just not good. There was something maybe about a carpet and rolling someone up in a carpet. That's about all I can remember. Which, I mean, with that little nugget, how could it not have been hysterical? But
I know, it's so shame inducing.
yeah.
I mean, I'm a perfectionist. And so when I'm walking through the theater as we're all leaving, in my mind, 1,000 laser eyes are saying, shame, or just, you don't belong here, outsider, any of these. I mean, my brain does crazy things to me. And I was so embarrassed to even be looked at. And I look at it now, I'm a little bit older, obviously, and I'm like, it should have just been like, whatever, somebody buy me a drink, I need it,
Yeah.
or something. But I did not have a sense of humor about that, which is a little ironic.
Yeah. It is hard in those moments, especially at that point in your improv journey to overcome some of those things. Because, yeah, once the embarrassment that hasn't been there because you've been doing improv for so long, but once that kind of returns, that junior high embarrassment or whatever, it's like, where did you come from?
Yes, junior high embarrassment. That is it. That feeling is so intense. But some improvisers, I swear, they just don't have it. They don't get that feeling. They're
Yeah.
like, whatever. And I'm like, we can never go out there again. Don't show your face.
I need to change my clothes so they don't recognize me.
That's right. Oh, yeah. I wondered if it happened to me today, if I would have the same reaction. I think I would. I think I would be all right now.
There's only one way to find out, and I've signed you up for the Chicago Improv Festival.
No! I'll practice in front of 7th graders, and then I'll have a tougher skin.
Yeah, you're fine. You'll be fine.
I'll be fine. Whatever.
That's it for part 1 of my interview with Megan. Come back and listen to part 2, where we'll talk about Comedy Warehouse, her experience dealing with sexism in improv, and Megan will answer my Proustian questionnaire. You don't want to miss it. If you'd like to contact me, shoot me an email at improvbrain@gmail.com, and thanks for listening to Improv Autopsy.